Hey guys, welcome back to this discussion of SQL Server. In today's session, I'm going to talk about different types of data types that we use in SQL Server. In SQL Server, we use three main kinds of data type: the numeric, character, and date and time. Now let's understand what is there for each of the data type that we can handle the queries. So why we need data type? Data type actually states the type of data a particular record or a table contains in a database. Data type is a very common term in technical field where people working with different types of programming language or any backend scripting, data type holds a very important place over there. Now, talking about data types in SQL, it defines the type of data a particular column or a particular record in a table can handle. Is a record the data type particularly shows what kind of data a particular record or a column is holding. To start with, the first data type is numeric. Under numeric data type, we deal with big int, small int, tiny int, and decimal. When you talk about numerical data type, we have a different section of capacities for each of the data type, a range that has been defined for each of the data type. Now, if you can focus on this particular type of on the screen, you can see for big int, the range starts from somewhere around -2, -92.2 plus 92337 and go on. So this is the maximum number of range, the maximum value that this particular data type can hold. Similarly, we have int, we have small int, tiny int, and decimal, which holds different types of data type in terms of value of the record that contains or the column type by which the data type has been defined. The next data type is character data type. Now, any data type which takes care of the text value or the string value in your table are called character data type. Now, under character data type, we have three important kinds of data type. First, char, varchar, and text. Now, if we talk about the char and the varchar is the most common type of data type that we use in our table operations. Now, it's very important to understand the difference between char and varchar kind of data type. Now, in char, you can see the range is 255 characters, and the same range we can see for varchar also. Now, the question is, what is the difference between char and varchar? Now, let me explain you the difference with the help of an example. Now, char data type is somewhat works with a static memory allocation. For example, if you define char 30, that means, and you supply a value of 2 or 3, that means in that case only 3 memory will be used out of the 30 memory size that has been allocated to the char data type, and the rest 27 memory blocks will be, or the memory allocation will get wasted. But the same thing if we do through varchar, if we define our data type as varchar 30, then even though you have been allocated 30 blocks of memory, and if you use only 3 blocks of the memory, the rest 27 doesn't get wasted. Only 3 block of memory will be in use. So a char data type is a static data type, you can say, it works on a static memory allocation, and a varchar data type works on a dynamic memory allocation. And similarly, we have text, which has a memory range of, it can hold a capacity of 65,535 characters. The next is date and time. So we have three important type of data type in terms of date and time in SQL. So we have a date, time, and text. The date holds the date format in the form of year, month, and days. The time holds the format in terms of hour, minutes, and seconds. And the text holds the format in terms of years. Now, it's very important that you should understand when, and where we have to use the date data type, because date is related to the time component in your table. So it should be used very carefully where you are dealing with some time aspect of the data. Apart from data type, there's one more important thing that we deal in SQL, that is constants. Now, what are constants? Constants are nothing but the limitations that we use in a table in SQL. there are mainly four kinds of constants: not null, default, unique, and primary key. Now, talking about not null, when we define a constraint as not null, that means that particular column cannot hold a null value. Default stands for an option where we need to give a default value for a specific column. Now, for example, if I'm making a table and if I set the employee age as default to 25, that means that particular column in the table will always hold a 25 as a value. Unique means a column in a table will always hold a unique value. It cannot hold a duplicate or ambiguous values. And primary key is the combination of not null and unique key. Means a column which has been marked as primary key in SQL cannot have a null value, and all the values in that particular column should be unique. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is relational database, the most dominant database model in SQL or database world. Now, relational database works on the concepts of tables, where we use structures that allow us to identify and access data point in relation to another data point in the database. Means data in a relational database are organized in the form of tables. The relationship that can be created among the tables enables a relational database to efficiently store huge amount of data and effectively retrieve the selected data. And that's the reason that relational database is the most dominant database model in the database concept, because it is the design of a relational database allows you to work with multiple tables, and as a result of which we can effectively store a good amount of data in a structured way, and we can use queries to retrieve those selected data. Now, we follow a certain process while designing a relational database. The first thing that we need to take care is we need to define a purpose for the database. Then we have to gather the data and organize the tables and specify the primary keys for the table. Now, in my upcoming sessions, we will clearly see how we can work with defining a primary key, working with constraints kind of options. And after we are done with gathering and organizing the data, we need to create the relationship between the tables. There are mainly three key relationships that we work in a relational database. First is one-to-many, many-to-many, and one-to-one. Next, we have to normalize the design of the table. A relational database allows you to normalize a design of the table. And when we say normalization, means we can add more columns, create new tables, and we can split a large table into smaller tables. Now, when I talk about tables in SQL Server, in tables we work with two important constraints. First is a primary key, and the second is a primary key is used to ensure the data in a specific column doesn't hold a null value and should be unique in nature. Whereas a foreign key is a column or a group of columns in a relational database that provides a link between the data in the two tables. It's a column that references a column from another table. Now, let me explain it with the help of an example. Suppose you have an employee table and a department table. An employee table, the employee ID column is a primary key, and in department table, the department ID column is a primary key. Now, for any reason, for a specific reason, if I use the department ID column in the employee table, then that particular department ID column is a foreign key for employee table, which can be used for establishing a connection between the employee and the department table. So, this is the concept of primary and foreign key. Now, in my upcoming discussions, I'll be discussing about every concept starting from data type, constants, and keys in detail. So, this was all about for this particular session. Thank you for watching this video.